There are ghost towns all across America. Some stand in the desert sun, their buildings slumped but still recognizable, where tourists wander and take photographs. Some are only foundations buried in weeds, forgotten by everyone, but a few historians with more patience than sense. And some don't exist at all anymore, erased by fire, flood, or the steady march of time. But Coldbrook was different, because Coldbrook did not fade. It vanished. Twice. Coldbrook was a farming town in the low valleys of the Midwest, built along a shallow river that wound between forests and fields. A silo rose above the horizon, marking the land for miles. There was a row of stores along Main Street, 2 churches with rival congregations, and a schoolhouse where children scraped chalk into boards while their fathers worked the land. It was no more or less remarkable than any other small town of the era. And then, in 1913, it was gone. Not in the way most towns are gone, with burnt beams and blackened chimneys. Not in the way of floods, where ruins lie under silt and water. Coldbrook was gone as though it had been brushed away by a hand. Travelers reached the road one morning to find nothing but fields and trees. The grain silo, the school, the houses, the people, gone. Where a main street had been was only grass, grown as if undisturbed for centuries. Where fences had divided property, it was nothing but smooth soil. It was not destruction, it was erasure. Families arrived from neighboring counties searching for kin. They found no graves, no photographs, no belongings. It was as though the people of Coldbrook had never existed. And yet, records remained, birth certificates stamped with the town name, bills of sale, a census written by careful hands only months before. The government dispatched surveyors. Newspapers sent men with notebooks. They all found the same: nothing. A headline from the Columbus Sentinel, dated September 1913, read, "Whole town missing, Coldbrook erased." The story gripped readers for weeks, then faded. There was no explanation, no recovery, no survivors. The earth was smooth, and the world moved on. For 4 decades, Coldbrook was nothing but a rumor. A campfire tale traded in whispers. Some said it had sunk. Others said it had burned without ash. Others still claimed the land had swallowed it for sins too grave to name. But in 1954, motorists on a nearby highway began to report lights. They swore they saw houses glowing across the fields at dusk, a grid of yellow dots like windows. A church steeple outlined against the moon. And when they slowed, they heard the sound of bells carried faintly on the wind. By winter, Coldbrook was back, not as ruins, not rebuilt, but standing whole, exactly as it had been. The silo, the schoolhouse, the churches. Families walked the streets. Shops sold flour and nails. Children played in the snow. Surveyors returned in disbelief. They spoke to residents who insisted nothing unusual had happened. Coldbrook's always been here, they said. They had records, photographs, keepsakes. They laughed at the notion that their town had been gone for 40 years. But there were cracks. Maps did not agree. Surveyors charted the streets, but compasses spun, bearings shifted, distances contradicted themselves. Clocks ticked unevenly. Shadows stretched in strange directions. Photographs blurred, some showing buildings at angles impossible for their frames. Visitors felt unease they could not name. They described silence behind walls when laughter sounded, curtains fluttering without wind, faces in windows repeating the same smile over and over. Some swore the residents' eyes caught the light too sharply, reflecting like mirrors. One newspaper editor, after visiting, wrote in a private note never published. They were kind, too kind, like actors remembering their lines. I don't think they know what they are. Then, in 1957, Coldbrook vanished again. Drivers turned down the same road to find empty fields. The town was gone. Houses, families, streets all erased once more. The land was smooth and quiet. The state filed no explanation. The newspapers barely covered it. It was as though Coldbrook had been forgotten on purpose. After the second vanishing, people began to speak of other places that felt wrong. Small towns glimpsed at the edges of roads, towns not marked on maps, towns that seemed too still, too quiet. Travelers stopped for gas or bread, only to find later that no such place existed. Some never returned at all. Researchers who studied Coldbrook found their notes changing. Journals filled with words they did not remember writing, diagrams of spirals and angles that bent across the page. Soil samples taken from the site corroded overnight, metals twisting into patterns like veins, bones etched with grooves that resembled streets. Folklore enthusiasts gathered clippings, compiling the fragments. One whispered warning appeared again and again. Don't stay the night. Those who lingered in Coldbrook's echo did not leave whole. Some returned changed, eyes reflecting no light, voices stuttering into loops. Some grew silent and still, as though waiting for something unseen. Others were never seen again, though their cars remained parked by the roadside, engines cooling. You see, Coldbrook was never a town. It was a mask, a shape worn by something vast, pressing against the skin of reality. It was a hunger that borrowed streets and steeples the way a predator borrows shadows. It lured with familiarity, grain silos, white fences, the warmth of neighbors' smiles. But beneath, it was something else entirely. Visitors who looked too closely saw the truth. Houses with too many doors, rooms without furniture, streets that bent inward, spiraling down into soil that pulsed faintly underfoot, basements with no end. The people were not people. They were echoes, shadows dressed in skin, repeating the same gestures, the same words. And when visitors believed, when they walked the streets and slept under the roofs, they were taken, folded into the mask, made part of the illusion. That was why Coldbrook returned stronger each time, because every believer, every witness, every victim gave it weight. Coldbrook has not officially returned since 1957, but stories say otherwise. Hikers speak of walking into valleys where no trails should lead and finding streets beneath their feet. Truckers whisper of towns where the lights glow too steady, where gas pumps work, though no wires run, where clerks stare too long. Campers tell of church bells heard in forests, miles from any road. Some photographs circulate on fringe forums, grainy images of Coldbrook's silo, its churches, its neat row of houses. These pictures always taken from a distance, always blurred, always disbelieved. But those who see them too long find the shapes repeating in their dreams. They dream of streets bending inward, of skies collapsing into funnels of black. They dream of being welcomed home to a town that should not exist. Coldbrook is not gone. It waits. It waits to be believed again, to be walked again, to be fed again. Each time stronger, each time more convincing, each time hungrier. And it does not need to wear the same name. When it comes again, it may be called something else. Fairvale, Mill Haven, Hollow's End. A town not marked on any map, waiting just off the road you always drive. You may stop for gas, buy bread at a corner store, nod at neighbors who greet you warmly. You may think it's ordinary, but if you sleep there, if you breathe its air, if you look too long into the windows at night, you will not leave. Because Coldbrook is not a town. It is hunger shaped like streets. And hunger always returns.